This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation. Welcome back to PTBN's NBA Team Podcast. As we are now getting closer to the month of February, we're past the Martin Luther King slate of games, which kind of is a trigger for the midseason point. So we're going to talk about some sort of midseason grades and reports and such to kind of entertain you guys for this episode. My name is Andrew Riche. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show, and on the other side, I'm still here after my long talk is finished. Adam Murray. Adam, we got to get it out in the air. We're both Saints fans. Where are you on your jaded scale? Now, I do know you live in the Boston area where you have to cover the Patriots. Maybe you're sick of them too, but deep in your heart, you are a Saints fan. So, where are you at on the misery scale?
All the response, everyone's like, "Oh man, you guys got robbed," and those who aren't spiteful, I'm like, well, for number one, I go, my response is always, "Oh, I didn't know we need to beat the refs too, in addition to, the Rams," and the is what it is, whatever. But then it's like, well, what would happen if that would happen to your team? What if it happened to the Eagles? Or oh man, I don't know what I'd do. I'm like, yeah, it's a shitty thing for the league as all. There's a reason, like, I'm just falling away from football in general, and this is just another reason, like, we don't, we're not going to say anything about it. It's just apologize. Be like, yeah, we screwed this one up. We're going to, what can you do? It happens.
Do I think there was like a grand conspiracy in me, the realistic fan? No, I don't think so. Do I think it's highly coincidental that the referees in that game were all from California? Yeah. It's a terrible look that they probably should have been able to avoid, but I don't think that was the reason it happened.
No, it's not the reason it happened. As we've seen, like, nobody cares about this Super Bowl. Like, this was the least of the matchups anybody wanted to see. So it's not like the Rams are a big attention draw for anybody.
Yeah, and for the uninitiated, basically, a wide receiver for the Saints got blasted on a pass play, and they called nothing, which is like, it's probably, would you call it the worst no call in the history? I mean, we could try to translate this to NBA stuff. I mean, what kind of no calls were there? There was the push off, but that was just more smart by Jordan than it was a foul. Would you say?
I'm not going to go through into history. Where does it rank? What is this? And in the end, they got robbed. Everybody knows it. The league,
the popularity of that particular Super Bowl is plummeting right now.
We're not gonna.
Are down. The ratings are going to be down.
We're not going to mention that anything happened, but we're going to fine that player for an illegal hit. Well, then, how do you get fined for a hit if there was no penalty? Therefore, it must be a clean play. It's just, it's an unfortunate way to end the season. Whatever. But let's go on to the NBA. I have a big question for you this week.
Okay, good. That's a great transition to get out of this horrible topic, but let's hit it.
Do we care about this season?
Right now, I don't.
This season, it was the big, huge thing.
That's why we've had our sporadic appearances. It's just been tough sledding for the both of us between travel and trying to figure out something fairly interesting. I think the East has been really interesting, but the race to 8 is not. Like, it's starting to get a little bit clearer. In that 8 spot of what's going to happen in the Eastern Conference, if you ask me.
You're
so it's kind of lost. I've sort of lost a little bit of interest there. Like, the only team that's kind of close there that I think would have a healthy shot to get back in the playoff race are the Pistons. But I mean, Washington without John Wall and the Orlando Magic are back into their January downslide, so they're out. And then the bottom 4 after that are Atlanta, Chicago, New York, and Cleveland. They're all tanking.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, are you really excited about Charlotte? Are you excited? Brooklyn, great story being.
Well, the All-Star game's in Charlotte, so Kemba Walker gets to show off with some of those, superstars, starters that are going to be in the All-Star game.
Charlotte being over 500 and, Brooklyn being, Charlotte's not over 500. Charlotte's in the,
the
8th seed.
2 games under, and they're the 8th seed right now.
Yeah, Brooklyn's in there. Indiana with Oladipo and his horrific injury. Not horrific, but unfortunate.
It's like a displaced Achilles. It was a ruptured Achilles, or no, not Achilles. Help me out here. somewhere in the knee, right?
Yes, like it's what Tony Parker had.
Yeah, and so he's out for the rest of the season.
He's out for the year, and it's. And then so the Pacers are going to start slowly sinking back down.
They're probably good defensively, though. They might be able to hang in.
They'll make the playoffs, but they're not going to be that threat they were in the West. The story of the Clippers that the Clippers are so hot. They've fallen. Memphis has gone like 0 for 50. They are. Memphis is a great story. They're third.
They are the second. They're the second worst record in the West right now. The only one worse than them is Phoenix.
Yeah, they're sinking. LeBron and the Lakers. Nobody really cares about LeBron and the Lakers.
Dude, the LeBron injury, which is now dated to about 13 games now with his absence. Supposedly he's back into full contact practice, so he'll be back fairly soon, but no one knows the exact return. But he's been out for about 13 games, and they have absolutely crumbled. I mean, they've won a few, and in the meantime, Lonzo Ball injured his ankle, so he's out.
Lonzo Ball has done the only, Kuzma, it's like, okay, we get it.
I get that, but that's your point guard,
Yeah, but Ball, he wasn't really being much of a point guard with LeBron anyways, but it's just, Golden State's found their swagger, and it's just like every team is. I really define myself like finding it hard to care about everything that's going on because nobody's going to make trades. Nobody's going to go all in because, we need the cap space for next year. So why bother renting a player who will be free or cut?
They'd rather go to the buyout market like the Rockets did with Kenneth Faried.
With Faried and then Austin Rivers and then Melo. You have three really good players who are all signing veteran minimum deals. It's like, come on.
I'm glad you brought up Melo because that was sort of one of those purgatory situations where they didn't want to do the buyout, so they were trying to move him, but they couldn't find the right suitor, and they finally found one in Chicago, who I'm pretty sure are just going to buy out the contract. I'm sure there's a lot of skepticism of where he might go, but he doesn't have a lot of leverage here. Do you think the Lakers, with LeBron being his buddy, might be able to sign him up, or is there a leading candidate?
No, that's the only one that's left because, for one, Chicago, it's a shame they traded him and the rights to somebody who I think is 36 years old for somebody whose rights are international rights for somebody who's 32. It's he got traded just for no name people. They didn't ask. They're you don't need to take a physical. Don't bother coming in. They're not going to cut him now because, they can see maybe try to trade him.
Don't you need to take the physical in order for the trade to be completed?
Not if you waive it.
Okay.
Most teams are we want to make sure we're getting good. They have no intention of playing him. They got, Houston paid him out. They paid him, it's some weird loan thing. We're going to give you 10 payments of this and one big payment for tax purposes. It's some weird.
The Rockets were basically trying their best to avoid having to put anything extra on the table so that they can make that spot for Faried.
Yeah.
Once they realized he was on the buyout market, meaning the Nets were going to finish buying out his contract, then they made the move to clear Anthony off the table. It wasn't like Anthony was a super expensive salary because he was already the victim of a much bigger buyout with Oklahoma City.
Yeah, but if you trade him, you don't have.
They were so far over the tax that they had to, be able to clear any little bit of money in order to make the move to get Faried.
You have Harden who's scoring like it's 1965.
Yeah, he's on the Wilt Street.
He's insane amount of 30-point games in a row, and it's just I'm oh, that's crazy. He's crazy good, but other than that,
yeah. And let me say this: some people, the comparison because of the stat mongering is to Kobe Bryant in 2006 when he got over 35 points a game in this regular season. He had a 81-point game at one point in January, and I think he went for 50. He averaged 50 for 5 straight games, which is what Harden just tied. I don't feel that way about this Rocket team. I think they're definitely better than that Laker team for sure. But when you see numbers like that, and I know that the offense has been exploding, there's an offensive renaissance in the NBA right now. But the thing is, I do feel like when you see numbers like that becomes that over-reliance is sort of it's a hint that there is a lot of deeper problems with that particular team. And I think with Houston, that's definitely the case. I do think, though, with Chris Paul coming back and, bringing in Faried, that things like that will be able to improve them, and they're definitely going to make the playoffs. That Laker team I remembered was barely in the playoffs, even with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, and even then it's just, you see the Warrior. Do you think, Denver, okay, they're the upstart story we're waiting for, but we don't care about them. Portland has sort of fizzled off. They've They've plateaued. They're sort of
Yeah,
there. Oklahoma City.
A big thing for Denver is that they got Will Barton back recently, which has helped them a lot. So,
Outside of Portland and Houston, we know San Antonio doesn't really have anything.
no, but Aldridge has been playing lights out for the last 3 or 4
Oh, they've
weeks.
been playing really good, but we're like, they're not going to compete for anything. Not with that roster.
I think they could win a playoff series. I'll just put it that way. Like with DeRozan and Aldridge together, I think they could probably pull something off.
So who are they? Okay, let's just say they are where they are right now.
They're 6 seed.
Yeah, they're the 6. So do you think they can beat, let's say, Denver, Oklahoma City, or Portland?
Yeah, I think that they would have a shot at beating either Denver or Portland because of Denver's inexperience with the playoffs. And also, with Portland in the playoffs, I can't trust them ever after the Pelican series last year. That's the problem. The playoffs is another animal.
Okay, now let's move to the Pelicans for a second. Are the Vultures slowly creeping in?
That's in the summer. I think what's going to happen is when they finally corner AD Anthony Davis's people. And he's been out for how many? I don't remember how many games it's been. I want to say it's like about maybe 4 or 5. He was estimated to be out at least like a couple of weeks, and it looks like it was gonna be a month. But now they're saying he might be back sooner than that. But without him, they've just been awful. They've lost 6 of their last 10. They've lost 3 in a row. 22-28 is not a horrible record, but the problem is, in a really competitive Western Conference where you have to have a winning record in order to get an 8 spot, it looks like the chances for the Pelicans to make the playoffs slowly slipping away. So, just like you said, are the Vultures slowly starting to fly over? Maybe, but I mean, here's the problem. You're talking about, trade deadline, no one's going to be making moves. I don't know anybody who thinks that they could put together a deal or an offer that Dell Demps and the Pelicans would even remotely listen to for Anthony Davis. So I would say no. I think that a lot of that trepidation is going to hold off until about June when the Pelicans brass comes to the realization that AD might be getting out of here. Kind of like the situation what happened with Paul George in Indiana.
Well, Paul George, and you have everybody, even Kevin Garnett, saying like, dude, you have to leave. You can't do it to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and that was Mr. Loyalty.
Yeah, and he was like, yeah, that was my fault. I was too loyal, and yeah, it was great. I had fun there, but you shouldn't do it, kid. Don't do it. Yeah. And
let me preface by saying this: the Pelicans are not garbage. They're a decent team. They've just had their typical annual injury bug. And the fact is that they've had a lot of issues with things like their defense has left a lot to be desired, and not being able to bring back Boogie has hurt them, of course. I mean, they played well without Boogie in the playoffs, but can you maintain that for an entire season? And
I think that's half the problem. Is if they kept Boogie, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. We'd be saying, how can we build around these two? And these two are cornerstones and twin towers.
Yeah,
Once Boogie said, I'm just going to go get a ring, that sort of fell apart.
We could move that over with the Warriors winning streak, which I think stands around 10 in a row now that they beat Boston on the road in a really fun game on Saturday night. How do you think DeMarcus Cousins has fit with the Warriors? It's obviously one of those kind of like try to ease him in, but try to get him some points at the same time type of deal, which is easy in the NBA now because everybody's scoring. But do you feel like he's fit well?
Everybody's just scoring and shooting threes. He's not really doing much. He's just sort of.
He's passed well.
They're just telling him, look, run up and down the court, get in physical shape. That's all. He's just on the preseason calisthenics plan, and they're all shooting around because, with whoever their center was, I couldn't even tell. Is it Looney?
Well, last year was McGee, but yeah, Kevon Looney.
Yeah, Kevon Looney's been starting
and started minutes. Yeah,
they're playing 4-on-5 essentially with him or JaVale McGee, anyways. So it's not like they're used to having a center in their wheelhouse, anyways.
Yeah, and they would go super small with Jordan Bell, which they still do. They do some of those small ball. I mean, I don't think Cousins is at the point yet where you can put him in a death lineup. Death lineups become a cliche. What it really means is like, what is your most effective 5 on the floor? And I don't think Cousins is really there yet, but he's definitely been efficient for them when he's
not there. But who I think he has hurt the most was Iguodala.
Because of his defensive impact being sort of marginalized?
But he's being on the court. Without having a center, Iguodala's coming in. He's playing 32 minutes. Now with Boogie on the court for 20, that sort of cuts into his time, and it seems to be cutting into his rhythm.
Yes, and now Steph Curry's back in the fold. That's sort of one of the catalysts for their winning streak. Along with bringing Boogie in and, Klay Thompson. Didn't he have this one game against the Lakers? Now, LeBron didn't play in that game where the Lakers were scheduled to play the Warriors on Martin Luther King Day. But didn't, Klay Thompson, make his first 6 3-pointers in the game or something like that?
He had some insane stat.
And then he had one where he made 10 threes about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's the thing is just...
But Curry is on a roll. Let me ask you this. If you had to hedge a bet, and you had to pick one of those Warriors as an MVP. Let's just corner it to those two. Would you take Durant or would you take Curry?
I'd take Durant.
You would take Durant, but Curry probably has the best stroke because of the fact that in his absence, the Warriors were worse.
Well, in his absence, the Warriors were worse, but they weren't really trying.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the thing is, if they lost, but Quinn Cook was starting for them, and that's a big super drop off.
Yes, it is. And the one thing I do like is when they play the Kings, because the Kings are an entertaining team. They're a good team, but also, does Seth play for the Kings?
Yes.
Am I saying you see, they get into these weird shootouts when they play each other. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Where Seth can kind of give a little bit of a jab, but Steph still has the knockout punch, so you don't want to rattle the cage too much, trying to go into a shootout with Curry. But Curry's been putting up some pretty awesome numbers lately. He had 48 against the Mavericks. He had 42 in Sacramento. The Warriors get a little bit boring to talk about. I know a lot of people sort of roll their eyes when they hear about the Warriors a lot, but yeah, they are getting into their groove, and they are obviously a force to be reckoned with throughout the season. We just weren't sure when they would stabilize. I think they're at the point where they are stabilizing as a team.
Well, it was a lot of just Draymond was sort of rocking the boat, and they've sort of calmed him down. Now everything seems to be going smoothly.
Yeah. The Celtics are weird because they're a team where there's a you look at their schedule, and sometimes they'll have these stretches where Gordon Hayward has a great game, and they have maybe 2 or 3 games in a row where they look fantastic. And then they'll drop one. They dropped one to the Brooklyn Nets. And then they look great again for about 2 more games, and then they lose a tough one to the Warriors. They've been pretty good. They had a pretty long winning streak going, I want to say somewhere around December. But it's just been weird. It's been clustered is the best way I'm trying to put it.
The thing with them is, they have a great close game to the Warriors, and then they'll go get blown out by Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
It's, Hayward is not good. He has not come back.
He's not there yet, is what you're trying to say.
That's what everybody's hoping is he's not there yet, because if this is what he's back to at full strength, then he's officially just damaged goods and just going to be an albatross on the team.
For a player in his 8th or 9th season, that would be a shame if that's true. I would hate to see the. That's just we're kind of in the same situation with DeMarcus Cousins, where we're still trying to wait. Now the Warriors situation is so much more prosperous. Of course, you're going to be able to contribute.
The Warriors situation
is
like Duke. Warriors are, we can hide all your weaknesses because we just run out and shoot threes as fast as we possibly can. So. Yes. Other than that,
Boston is a little more systematic. I'm not trying to say that Brad Stevens is the type of coach that likes to put a death clutch on the way that people play, but definitely when you have a team where defense is your number one priority, which I think is definitely the case. Would you agree with that? Where with the Celtics, where kind of assists and defense is sort of the name of the game?
I have no idea with this year's team.
But what I'm trying to say is it's harder to fit in. Now I know some people will say, well, why is he having trouble fitting in with Stevens? He played for him at Butler. That was 10 years ago in college. This is not the same thing.
Well, how is it hard to play? It's not hard to play Stevens. Well, yeah, but then again, you have Jason Tatum who stole your thunder and is being you at your position. And then now you have to sort of fit into this real, where you're in Utah and then Butler, things went through you. Here, you have Kyrie playing hero. There was no hero ball in Utah.
Yeah,
and then,
I will say Kyrie is sort of kind of come alive in the last couple of months. I do see some Terry Rozier sightings every now and then. The one guy that I think we talked about this on the previous episode that we did, the one guy that we're still just kind of waiting to have the breakout is Jaylen Brown. But I feel like maybe he's sort of hiding, like he's hiding in plain sight, where they're sort of waiting to see what they can do and then unleash him in the playoffs.
I would like to think that, but just watching all his stats and like his everything is just down with him.
So if Indiana does do a predicted drop with the absence of Oladipo, they are at 32-16 and they have the 3 seed as we speak in the Eastern Conference. Say they take the tail off. Right behind them is Philadelphia and Boston. Who do you think can maybe take that rise?
Well, Philadelphia is not scary. As we sort of
They're
predicted,
talented.
as we predicted, because, we've been off for the month, as we predicted, Jimmy Butler is going to start Jimmy Butlering this team. Mm-hmm. And then there's quiet, anonymous sources say Jimmy Butler is a ball hog. Jimmy Butler hates the young kid. Jimmy Butler, and then Jimmy Butler comes out, I don't like all these. It's like, it's, their delicate chemistry is getting shaken, like we sort of figured was going to happen. So the Celtics, I'm pretty sure they could beat them quite easily. Indiana quite easily. It's just you have Toronto, and then
Toronto, I feel like, is pretty secure at the 2, to be honest with you.
Oh, Toronto's going to be the 1 by the end of it. And then I'm just going to quietly point out again, didn't I say Milwaukee was going to be good?
Well, I did too. I mean, I have to jump on that. I have to jump on that bandwagon too. The thing about Giannis is that, he was obviously named. I think he was voted anyway by the fan vote anyway. But he's the team captain of the East, and he obviously deserves that recognition. I think this is his 3rd All-Star game. But it's pretty clear to me that him and Kawhi are sort of your 1 and 2 in the MVP race out of the Eastern Conference.
Agreed.
You get Joel Embiid's been fantastic. Victor Oladipo before the injury definitely would have been able to make a case. And I still have to make a shout out to Kemba Walker because I know that team's not going to be competitive in the postseason unless some miracle happens. But Walker has been absolutely sensational for Charlotte. I really am curious of what's going to happen in the offseason for them, but we're not in the offseason, obviously. With Milwaukee, there are some weird problems there. Thon Maker is unhappy with his playing time, and he asked for a trade, but it was sort of very, loosely done. It wasn't one of those things where the agent wants Maker to get out of there. What did you think of that?
Well, that was just sort of, I don't know, it was weird how sort of respectful it is. It's like, he wants more playing time. He wants it. And it's like,
it wasn't like an Eric Bledsoe thing where he tweeted, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, you watch his stat line, his per 36 numbers are good. And you watch him in the court and limited numbers, he's good. It's just, it's hard to be a developmental player on a team who's now a full-on front runner.
And their bench has been so good. So in truth, the one thing that is sort of trepidatious about that is that Maker has been somewhat valuable, even though he doesn't get a lot of minutes. He does provide to a bench that I would say is, along with Toronto, probably the 2 best benches in the NBA, unless there's maybe Boston. Is there a couple others that maybe we could think of?
Well, here's the thing. Who would have thought that, DJ Wilson would have a pulse finally?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now we decide to show up and then, there sort of goes Thon Maker's minutes because now that they're a traditional team, you can't play them at a 5, which is what they used to do. And
yeah, they were so deep that Dante DiVincenzo, who was giving them good minutes, they had to send him to the G League.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where when your team gets good, we can't spend 25 minutes putting you on the court learning you the games there. This isn't Phoenix where we could have 5 small forwards on the court.
Yeah. I was thinking about the West and I was looking at it. The other one with the good bench is Denver. The Nuggets have a really good bench.
Well, they all have people who know their roles.
Malik Beasley, even somebody like Torrey Craig, who's been a journeyman for a long time, but he's found his footing in Denver, and he provides decent minutes for them, along with trying to think of Mason Plumlee is sort of shows up in the box score every now and then. But yeah, in the East, it's Toronto and Milwaukee when it comes to sort of the depth. Depth is a huge thing in the playoffs. Now, does it win when your rotation gets tightened? No, I don't think having a great 8th or 9th man is going to be the difference between winning and losing a series. I think it's more about who's your best player and how well are they playing.
Well, an 8th or 9th man will win you a series if your top man goes out.
That's true.
If
But
you have no
that's more of
eighth
a
man,
happenstance thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's a happenstance. But if you don't have an eighth man and you're running your team 7 deep and one person goes down, you got nothing to replace him with. Just 2 other quick, I'm looking for your opinions on. The dumpster fire that is known in Washington.
Bradley Beal's playing great without John Wall there.
Everybody seems to be happy without John Wall.
Yeah, but they're not. I don't want to say they're
not as good.
Well, they're 6-4 in their last 10. I mean, they're not playing terrible. Getting Trevor Ariza helped out a lot too. But the thing is, like, Beal's going to make the All-Star game probably as a reserve. Like, I'd be stunned if he didn't. But the thing is, a lot of people are using that to try to pile on John Wall. Oh yeah, they're going to win without. They're going to do better without him. That contract's an albatross. Well, here's the truth. That's a supermax, just like Blake Griffin's is in Detroit. You are not getting rid of that. It's staying. Just like Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City. Those are probably going to be considered the worst contracts in the NBA in about 4 or 5 years. But you're locked in, buddy. Like there's no way out of it.
Look at the Melo deal when, he signed his deal. That last final year is killed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
To get rid of him.
But yeah, even didn't Satoransky have a triple-double?
Yeah, there was
in a game where they actually beat the Bucks.
And then people are saying he's the glue to the team. It's like, what? You were trying to cut him like a year ago.
Yeah.
I was a fan of him. Speaking of also just, whatever. What do you think of we know the Knicks are garbage. We know
Alonzo Trier's played well.
They're playing a very dangerous game with that. We're not going to max Porzingis. We're going to take it slow and, sort of jerking him around. What do you think of their yard sale strategy?
Well, when you say yard sale, who are they trying to trade away? And who?
No, they got Hizanja, they got Noah Vonleh, they got
but that's what I'm trying to say.
Moutier.
Who wants them? Who wants Mario Hezonja? Who wants Noah Vonleh?
But they paid nothing for all these guys, and Vonleh had showed signs of life where we haven't really seen.
The valuable players were Trier and Mitchell Robinson, and they're not trading those guys.
Well, I'm just saying you have garbage, and they're sort of having these reclamation projects, and as opposed to other teams who are just actively tanking. And where look at Atlanta, look at Cleveland. They're not putting anybody on the court who's going to be part of that future. We just got contracts to just go through the year. Chicago, well, we got Robin Lopez. We gave Felicio Cristiano $32 million for whatever. You have New York trying to find.
There are some. I will say this. You mentioned the 3 teams right there: Atlanta, Cleveland, and Chicago, who are obviously sort of in a tank mode. There are some curious things. Now, I'm not trying to say Wendell Carter's thumb injury is not as serious as it's supposed to be, because it probably is. But I just found it weird that he's out for a while. Tristan Thompson is out for another 2 weeks, they said. And the other one that you mentioned, Atlanta, Kevin Werder is playing out of his mind. Oh, he's out for a couple games. So what's going on here? I mean, do you think they're trying to cool their own teams off?
I don't know. And that could bring me to this is the next point I was going to get to. As we just fly, we're just rocketing through this. It's amazing.
I mean, we're just going right through the Eastern Conference in the West.
We are having a little blazing pace on this one, which I don't think we've ever had it this fast.
Yeah.
NCAA. Do we care about that this year? Is it officially done?
I don't think you've ever cared about the NCAA. But
I used to, but now is there anybody who's worth it's not even worth you don't even hear it being reported about. You have Zion, and then
So what you're talking about is the buzz for the NBA draft. Do we care about what?
Well, nobody else cares about anything until March Madness. We don't care about mid-major schools.
The only thing I find interesting is that the tinkering that they've kind of put into that they've tried to put in with the combine and the invites and things like that for eligibility. But we're not really going to see the true fallout of that until we get to June, when teams players get representation, but they try to keep their eligibility. But that's more for fringe players. We're talking Turkey. We're talking the really good players. The only guy, the one that's sort of been shooting up the draft board is Ja Morant from Murray State. Because they're looking at it. I said Murray State. I said Murray State. But the thing with Morant is that they see him more like a Russell Westbrook clone, and he's also sort of in that same vein as like Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, really good guard from a smaller school that you don't want to miss out on. I don't think he's number one. I think Zion Williamson's number one, and I think RJ Barrett is number two.
Well, here's the thing: you have 5 teams who are openly tanking.
Yes.
Do you think like a Rui Hachimura?
I would say 6. I would say 6.
Fine.
Let me stare down the rankings.
Cleveland, New York, Phoenix, Chicago, Atlanta, Memphis.
Yeah, you know what? I take that back. I was gonna say Memphis, but I can't say that yet. So yeah, you're right. 5.
So again, is a Reddish, Keldon Johnson, a
Nick
Rui
Alexander
Hachimura.
Walker, yeah.
Are those people who are going to be 3, 4, and 5? Are they going to be transcended to a team? No. So
Rui Hachimura is going to be the first good Japanese-born player to play in the NBA,
as opposed to
they had that one Watanabe, right?
Yuta Watanabe, who's like I think the first one. So it's not like he has much competition. But my point is, what good is Cleveland and Atlanta doing? Let's just put rosters out there. There's nobody. Your draft picks are. Why are you tanking?
For the same reason that everybody tries to move up to get a quarterback number 1 in the NFL draft. Maybe you can try to swing a deal so that you can move up to get one of those guys that you really, really like. And maybe somebody will fall in love with like a Charles Bassey or a Nasir Little or, the big guy in Maryland, Bruno Fernando. Like maybe they'll actually fall in love with these guys as the draft process rolls along. But I get your point. We're talking about dudes that will change your franchise like that. And there's really only 2 that I see. And they both play for Duke, which I know drives people fucking insane. But it's the truth. It's Zion and RJ Barrett are the guys.
Well, that's just the way this year's AAU team,
Very much
teams
so.
have gone.
It's an awesome team. But yeah, definitely like roll the ball out and let's go type of thing. Yeah, with the draft, yeah, there's more tankers than there are takers. If that makes any sense. But when it comes to like the NBA, that we could talk a little bit about the All-Stars. I don't have the starters in front of me. Do you have any of the starters in front of you?
I did not know it was required of me.
I know we're just really like on point here. Let me give them to you. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes. Let me see here. For the West, we have this is really like riveting. James Harden, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Paul George. In the East, Kemba Walker, which is going to be in Charlotte where the All-Star game is. Kyrie Irving, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's the captain, Kawhi Leonard, and Embiid. LeBron is the captain on the West side. Now they can pick whoever they want. So it's not set in stone of like that these players it's going to be East-West because they changed the format. LeBron can pick whoever he wants. They're going to televise that, I believe, February 7th. I have no idea how that's going to be formatted. I bet it's going to be a cluster, but we'll see how it goes. I bet the players will try to make something fun out of it because I don't think the players take the All-Star game that seriously.
No, and the thing with the All-Stars and the starters and whatnot, the 2 that, when it used to be fan vote, it would have been Derrick Rose and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, remember how Grant Hill kept getting the fan vote?
Yeah, so it's just like, I don't want to see them all just shoot threes, and they all make a joke of it, and it's not serious, and
a lot of dunks, a lot of going into the lane, yeah.
Yeah, you have, every center needs to shoot threes, and every point guard is going to try to do 360 dunks, and it's just like, what's the... It's not, the skills competition is more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with George being there. Some people said, "Oh, look at that, Westbrook didn't get in there." The thing with Westbrook is, I didn't really have too much of an issue with it. He's had a great year. Paul George has had a tremendous year so far with Oklahoma City. I would say, man, maybe I'm overstepping my boundaries. I feel like Paul George has been more valuable to the Thunder than Westbrook has.
Well,
is that too far?
That's a little too far. Without Westbrook, with Westbrook gone, that team is just anemic on offense. George is just sort of a glue on D.
There was no Anthony Davis, no Damian Lillard. Obviously, they're going to probably be picked as reserves. I'd be stunned if they didn't. And then there's LaMarcus Aldridge. I think the next one's after that, like Would you pick DeMar DeRozan? And who's the other one in the one of the ones from Sacramento? Maybe Buddy Hield or De'Aaron Fox. Like, I don't think that, you know, I guess there's more intrigue there, but I'm not going to be splitting my pants if like one of them gets picked over the other.
Fair enough.
I mean, is there one that you would like to like make the case for? Maybe Donovan Mitchell. We're just focused on the West.
No, because this season has just been whoever gets it.
I mean, Jokic is absolutely going to make it. You know, Karl Towns has just had a weird year where, you know, when Butler was still there in the beginning of the season, he obviously wasn't playing great, and now he sort of broke out a little bit. Derrick Rose now listen, since the last episode, Tom Thibodeau was fired. You know, but that was something where I think a lot of people were sort of reading into it and noticing that, you know, something was very, very wrong in Minnesota even after they traded Jimmy Butler, and you knew that change was coming. I didn't think it'd be that swift, but obviously Glenn Taylor felt like that Thibodeau had lost.
Yeah, I think it'd be that swift, and then after he got fired, no player seemed to be like, wow, I need to stand behind him.
That's what I'm trying to say, that he lost the team. When you lose,
yeah, he lost the team, and then, you know, when Hoiberg got fired, nobody said anything.
No,
yeah. Granted, his replacement seemed to be a tyrant, and everyone was like, we don't like the new guy, but they didn't say, oh, we want the old guy back. So,
you know, so yeah, there's a couple of intriguing things there with you know, even Luka Doncic. You know, I maybe you can make a case for him as an all-star. It would be very, very unlikely. The East is a little bit more open because Oladipo would have been a surefire reserve, but he's not going to play.
Oladipo, you have Butler will probably get in.
Butler will likely get in. Ben Simmons will likely get in. You'll have three of them. You have the three Philly stars. You know, their trio there. Al Horford made it last year. I don't think he'll.
I don't think he will.
There's D'Angelo Russell has played super good. I know that's a tremendous word to use as a.
Vucevic might.
Yeah, Brad Beal we talked about. Blake Griffin. Vucevic is like the Celtic killer, isn't he? Every time he plays the Boston Celtics, he kills them.
Yeah, and that would be the old Patino. We would be like, we need to get him. We need to sign him to a $60 million deal. He's good. He's a good player.
You know where Patino is right now? He's in Europe.
In Greece.
Yeah, I think Olympiacos, huh?
Olympiacos or Panathinaikos, one of the two.
I think he'll be back. I really do think he'll be back. I think he'll be the UCLA head coach.
I don't know if the NCAA school will take him with sanctions potentially looming, and
I think so. If Bruce Pearl can get a job at Auburn,
Bruce Pearl also had to sit out for 5 years.
Well, yeah, but the moment the show cause was over, they hired him. That's the thing.
Was it the moment, or was it like a year or two later?
It was literally right after they lifted it. They hired him.
Okay, fair enough.
Kyle Lowry. Now listen, here's the thing about Lowry that's weird. His scoring is down, but I feel like his impact on the team has risen with Kawhi, because when Kawhi sits out, Lowry runs the show.
Well, yeah, that's just it's a team
and he's played well, you know, for the most part.
But again, the All-Star game isn't what it used to be. Now that they're all mixed up, and the same thing with hockey, it's just like, who really cares if they're all? I know we can't do East versus West anymore, but there's just, But there are always players that you would hope would get the recognition. There's always the snub. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a snub all the time, because that means that you're having to leave out another good player. Like, say DeRozan doesn't get into the All-Star game. You know, some people would call that a legit snub, because I believe he started on the Eastern side last year. But, you know, somebody always has to get left out. Rudy Gobert is not even being talked about. You know, I mean, I don't think he's been injured this year so far. Am I wrong? No, he's just been quietly doing his thing. But I mean, I would try my damnedest to make a case for De'Aaron Fox. He's been fantastic. You know, Kyle Kuzma's played well. I'm trying to think of anybody else. You know, Drew Holiday has not been terrible. Mike Conley has been really good. You know, there's a couple of guys there that, you know, I don't think this is, you know, Major League Baseball where we need a representative out of every team. But, you know, obviously there are some guys that, unless injuries from the reserves in front of them open up slots, there are just some players that are just going to have to deal with not getting in. Thankfully, we don't have representatives or anything. Who would be there for Cleveland and Atlanta? For Cleveland, it would probably be, which one is it? Is it Zizic that they have, or is it Zubac? Which one is it? They have Zizic.
They have Zizic, and the Lakers have Ivica Zubac.
Yes.
Yes. They've actually both played decent minutes so far this year. But Zizic
No,
has played
Zizic has been, he's been, the one who's been playing decent has been Seti Osman.
Oh, okay. I was wrong. I was mixing up my big man. It's Seti Osman.
Well, Seti Osman's a small forward. He's not a big man.
Well, what I'm saying, foreign players. I was mixing them up.
Fine.
I made a mess. I screwed up, and I'm trying to fix the mess. And you're getting all in the way of me. Orlando, yeah, Vucevic, like Chicago, Zach LaVine, I guess. You know,
I don't know.
New York, God help me. I'd probably just pick Mitchell Robinson because he's from my hometown. He has played well though. Big dude.
He's been out with an injury and he's learning how to play and has
Atlanta definitely John Collins. I think that's the brightest guy they got.
Okay, but that's the thing. It's just, so many just bad teams this year. It's just a really it is a really throwaway season.
Well, you talked about the Knicks, and we can finish up by making coinciding it with Brooklyn. A lot of people are starting to kind of drop the knowledge that Brooklyn was dealt a much worse hand than the Knicks were in terms of not having draft picks, not having cap room, and still finding a way to improve their roster while being able to have the cap flexibility. Easy for me to say. Whereas New York has just seemed to hamstring themselves year after year after year with stupid decisions. What did Brooklyn? I don't want to say that. What did they do right? Because I don't want to make it out like it's mission accomplished in Brooklyn. But it feels like they've definitely gone a step further.
Brooklyn didn't sign anybody to 4-year deals. It was just all tiny deals. It was like Spencer Dinwiddie's just a reclamation project, the same thing the Knicks are doing now. Let's just buy low. Joe Harris was one as well.
Mm-hmm. Good, really solid draft picks with the draft picks they had. Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
Hollis Jefferson's on his way out.
Yeah, but what it is that
with Devin Sawa,
they gave him a shot.
Sawa has been impressive and in his limited time here, and I think Hollis Jefferson is sort of we were waiting for that potential, we can't keep waiting that long. Same thing, Isaiah Whitehead, we're gonna, we'll take a chance on you, didn't work out. And it's also a lot of exploiting the stupidity of other teams. So in order to take Mozgov, we'll take Dan. We'll take your number 2 pick.
Do you think style had anything to do with it? Because they play a lot faster and they take a lot of those threes under Kenny Atkinson.
Well, it's the coach who's saying we're not going to openly tank. We're going to openly learn to get better.
We're going to at least try to. We're going to run. At least
we're going to run, and we're going to make a ton of mistakes, but we're going to learn how to play through them, as opposed to, okay, everybody off. Let's go put these 10-day contracts on.
But here's where it gets interesting with Brooklyn. Now, this is not the same situation Philadelphia was in, because Philadelphia was in a situation last year where they realized pretty quickly early on in the 2017-18 season that they were really good and they needed to make a play for it, and they made a decent move in the middle of that season where they acquired Ilyasova and
those were trade deadline cuts.
But what I'm saying is the Sixers were in a situation where they realized they were really good, and then they made the push that winning teams normally do to fortify their roster to try to make a run. I don't think Brooklyn is there yet. So, what would you advise them to do? They're in the playoff hunt, but do you think that they need to do something to fortify their team the same way Philadelphia did? Or
they need to just not be dumb.
Do you think that's going to be one of these things where they kind of fluctuate up and down, and they just might happen to be out of the playoffs by April?
Don't trade up and don't become buyers in the market and lock yourself into a bad deal. Just sit and continue with your strategy. If you don't make the playoffs,
owners become very impatient. They always have these whispers from their GMs. Oh, we could get this guy, and then you start seeing let's make this move. And then
Brooklyn hasn't. Brooklyn's been the way of, we'll take this bad contract for 2 years. With that pick, we'll get all these picks from you with your bad players.
They've done a tremendous job with the steady waiting game of the cap flexibility because they have so much cap space next year, so much.
Yeah, so why cash it in now to get either A, a rental and gut your whole team in the process for him, or B, get somebody who has 3 years and you can't now go with whatever plan you have next year?
What's your worry about Spencer Dinwiddie's injury? They say he's probably going to be out for at least 3 to 6 weeks.
Nothing. He'll be back.
Okay. I mean, they still got Rodion Caruch and who's the other one? Alan Crabb. That's the one kind of like contract that they were sort of forced to take on in order to make a move.
No, they weren't, because they initially signed him to that deal, so they obviously wanted him. It was just that was the one they didn't get a pick back because they had to give up Nicholson and his 4 years left on his horrible contract. So it's just one that was the one they didn't win contractually on, and he's not that great of a player. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's decent, but
versus the Knicks, like what did the Knicks do that Brooklyn didn't do?
The Knicks gave what's his name $75 million to come from Atlanta.
Joakim Noah?
No, then that was from Chicago. Hardaway.
Okay, Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah, Hardaway Jr. $75 million. You still have Courtney Lee on your roster making double digit, 10, 12 million. You had to buy out Joakim Noah and stretch out his salary because of that.
How's he doing in Memphis?
Memphis has lost like 14 in a row, so that pretty much says everything you need to know.
Oh, poor guy. I mean, you know what? The thing about Joakim Noah is that he was at a point in Chicago where he was like a point setter, where he was like a really good offensive and defensive player. He
was, but then injuries slowed him down, and then just that was it. And Father Time didn't. But the Brooklyn has gone here from being smart. They haven't given out bad contracts, and that's sort of where we could say Sacramento has been. Invest heavily in sort of, home run draft picks.
The difference between Brooklyn and Sacramento to me is that Sacramento is like legitimately talented. That's the one thing that I would say. I'm not trying to slight Brooklyn Nets fans. It's just that when I watched Brooklyn, I realized, man, they're getting the most out of what they have. Whereas with Sacramento, like, there's still a little bit more potential there that hasn't been tapped yet. Like Marvin Bagley, they have not get the best out of him yet.
Because they got people all off injuries and, they put a heavy load into buying,
very sporadic
stock.
team. They'll win 3 in a row, then they'll lose 4 in a row. I mean, it's a young team that's trying to figure it out.
I don't know, but, anything else before our train deadline non-episode we have? That'll be 5 minutes.
There's always one. The thing is, the big trade already happened with Jimmy Butler going to Philadelphia. So, like, what else could you expect?
So, really quick answer: yes or no? Will there be a big move?
One. I think Brooklyn's going to try to make a move. I think Brooklyn will try to make a move, and I think. I hate to tell you this. I think Indiana's going to panic and try to move somebody. Maybe they'll take the Thaddeus Young's last year. Even though he's a decent defensive piece for them, maybe they can try to move him, and a playoff team will think that he'll be a missing piece, and they'll trade away another guy.
All right, well, we will check back in a couple weeks. I say no. We'll check back a couple weeks and see how we did.
Okay. All right, and on behalf of Adam Murray, this is Andrew Riche. Take care, guys. We'll see you again.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
PlayStation Nation's Justin Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlayStation.com, and we now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the PlayStation Wrestling feed, we bring you The Mothership, the place to be podcast, Main Event, Survey Says, Wrestling Warzone, a Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective, No Holds Barred, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows. On top of that, we're also dipping into the vault, re-releasing the entire catalog of where the big boys play for your enjoyment. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver special network pod blasts on top. It's old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is loaded with great content, offering such tremendous shows covering the land of pop culture, such as Geek and Sassy, Talkin' Pop, the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Sunday Groove, PTBN Play, Freak Out Drive-In, Songs with Friends, Looking Forward, Looking Back, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the hard-traveling fanboys, Sellers Points, Conversation Comics, DC Post-Crisis Management, Marvel Age, and Marvel Age Masterclass, plus weekly pod blasts that cover the gamut of comic topics. The feed is also filled with insightful sports content, including the NBA team, This Week in the NFL, and more.
And you can find all these current shows plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows plus others available at PlayStation.com. We cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, in-depth stretch projects, and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlayStation.com/Amazon while doing your online shopping, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlayStation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.